Thank you, Congressman, for your time for us. You are the fifth Indian American Congressman in the House of Representatives. This is your first time here. Tell us about your first month's experience in the House of Representatives. Very happening month.
Yes, it is. Well, it started with the speaker election, and normally it is a smooth happening, but we had 15 different votes, and my family came here, my wife, my two sons, my two grandsons. They all came for the swearing in, and we just didn't know when it's going to happen. And they just kind of had to go back to school, go back to work.
Yeah.
So finally they all left, and the swearing in happened at 2 a.m. almost,
Right.
after those 15 things. But it's an honor, Look, I don't if you look at my constituents, they are largely African American, maybe half, more than half, and some working class people, white, and Hispanics. I don't look like them, I don't speak like them. And yet, they put faith in me. They trusted me, they voted for me to represent them in nation's capital. And I feel, I'm just so grateful. It's not only an honor, but it's a tremendous responsibility to serve 750,000 people. Now, regardless of their party, regardless of their views, I am their congressperson, and I need to listen to them, and I need to fight for them every day in the halls of Congress, because their quality of their life depends on how and what we do in the nation's capital.
How do you plan to represent them here? What are the issues on your agenda?
Look, ultimately is improving the quality of life. The COVID hit hard for Detroit, especially the black and brown communities. Healthcare coverage, millions of people are yet have no healthcare coverage. What COVID did was showed us that a nation as rich as United States of America, we have poverty. My district has 25% of people at or below poverty level. We have this huge wealth gap. And, Republicans have tried to give tax breaks to the rich, tax breaks to the corporations, hoping that it will all trickle down, and it has never done. Ronald Reagan talks about it. Every other Republican president tried to do that. President Trump gave almost $2 trillion of tax breaks to the rich and the corporations. But the lives of people at the bottom of the economic ladder has not changed for decades. And we need to really approach it totally differently. We need to create opportunities at the bottom. That means trade education. Not everybody wants to go to four-year college, but we need to respect the trade education. We need to create a skill set so that people can get good paying jobs. And we need to start working on that. We need to create health insurance. We need to disconnect health insurance from employment. So regardless of your employment status, you should have health coverage. And no one should be worried if a big healthcare crisis will make them bankrupt. No one had to worry if they're going to pay for their insulin or their prescription medicine, or they're going to pay for heat, or they're going to pay for food. We should not be making those kind of choices. Our resident should not have to make those kind of choices in a nation the world's richest nation, with so much of wealth accumulated in the top, 50 billionaires have as much wealth, net worth, as the bottom half of America. And it just shows something where we have to pay more attention. We need to look at this differently, not the top-down economics, but more of the lifting the bottom up and creating opportunities like entrepreneurship. Now look, when I was growing up in India, I grew up in poverty. My home had no running water and often no electricity. 900 square feet of space that, 6 sisters, a brother, my parents, we all lived there. And there were times we didn't know where our next meal is going to come from. So having grown up in poverty, having had the struggles that I have had, I understand the struggles of working families. I understand the tough choices that they need to make. So we need to work on the economic issues first and foremost, and then we can talk about other issues that are just as important, like voting rights, for example. We need to ensure that everyone has the freedom and ability to vote. And often we've seen from the Republicans as an attempt to suppress voting.
Do you have anything in your agenda or legislative agenda, like resolutions or bills that you want to bring in to further your objectives in the Congress?
Yes, I want to. Now, there's 2 committees. I just learned yesterday my assignment. So I'm so excited that I was able to get on the Small Business Committee. And through my Small Business Committee, I want to help people at the bottom to be able to start their own businesses, create entrepreneurial opportunity. I'm a business person myself. I have started small businesses. I've created lots of employment for people. And growing up from poverty to starting my own business, creating wealth, this is a dream, an American dream that I achieved. I want to help others achieve this American dream.
Yeah. Creating wealth and distributing wealth. Tell us about that part.
Well, we also, like when I owned...
When you distributed your own wealth to your employees.
Yes. So, when my business was growing and I was creating wealth, and at one time I felt that I've done well for my family. My family is doing well. My son, but I looked around when I traveled across Michigan. I saw, people struggling, and so I felt it's time for me to not get out of running my own businesses, accumulating wealth. It's time for me to go help others achieve their American dream. So with that in mind, I decided to sell my business. And then when I sold my business, I had at the time 50 employees. And I took $1.5 million and I distributed it to all of my employees. Now, often when companies are sold, only the C-class, the CEO and COO, they get the money and they get that benefit of that improvement. But people at the bottom, the janitors, the clerks, what I did was I distributed that money to all of my employees. Everybody got benefited. And then I took some of that money and ran my campaign for governor, because I thought, I have the executive skills to run this state that has 10 million people, and I can create opportunities for people, make better health care, mental health. In our state, a previous governor, Governor Engler, had cut down so much of mental health services, and I wanted to restore those. So I felt that as a governor, I could do that, and so I ran for governor. I did not win that election, but my desire to stay in public service didn't go away. And after that loss, I said, I'm going to take a lower position, and I ran for state rep. in the Michigan House and was able to do a lot in terms of bringing dollars to the district. I helped bring $1.2 billion for Detroit public schools. We brought a lot of money, about $650 million for mental health services, about $250 million to hire mental health counselors in public schools. So in 2 years, I was able to do so much more than what my predecessors may have done in 20 years. And with that, I think my constituents saw that. My constituents saw that the work that I've done, how I never missed a single vote in the House. I did not miss a single vote in the committee. So they saw my work ethic. They saw my passion. They saw the results of bringing dollars home, even though we were in a minority. I was able to do a lot for my district. And then they chose me, when the congressional election came, to be their representative in United States House of Representatives.
So one is your small business committee, and what is the second committee?
My second committee is Homeland Security. Now, as you know, Detroit is at the border with Canada. We talk a lot about, the Republicans talk a lot about southern border. But we have a larger northern border that needs to be monitored and for safety. There is a danger from northern border just as well. You know, we need to watch out for terrorism. We need to watch out for protecting our nation. Detroit has bridges to Canada, where a lot of employees come that live in Canada who are crossing to work in America. We have a lot of goods that, billions of dollars of commerce happens because of those bridges between Detroit and Windsor. And through the Homeland Security, I will be able to address those issues. Through Homeland Security, I'll be able to address FEMA. FEMA comes under Homeland Security, and Detroit historically have a lot of flooding problems, because we have such an aging infrastructure. And so I want to focus my position, my membership on the Homeland Security to ensure that I serve Detroit. We focus on the flooding. We bring resources to the Detroit and Downriver communities. A lot of Downriver communities, Ecorse, for example, Dearborn Heights. We have historically had issues with flooding, and not much has been done to find permanent solutions to these problems, and residents often lose a lot. Last time it flooded, residents lost a lot of treasures and furniture and things they had in the basement. Some residents lost photographs and lost all kinds of things that are irreplaceable. And so we need to find permanent solutions. We can't just have these floods ruin and damage people's homes and property. And so I want to work through FEMA and Homeland Security to resolve some of the flood issues in my district, especially in Detroit and Downriver communities.
House also has an important role in foreign policy, and although you're not in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, but when all the policy when it comes to the floor, you will have an opportunity to vote on it, express your views on it. How do you see the relationship with the world's two largest democracies, United States and India, and what kind of role you want to play in that?
I think historically this has not been as strong a relationship as it needs to be. We are the two biggest democracies. India has a huge economic power. India is now has the leadership of G20, and so India has been recognized for its economic power. United States would benefit. I think the United States and India each will benefit by having a strong mutual relationships, a relationship of trust, a relationship of mutual economic relationship, more trade, mutual trade. So I, as the fifth Indian American, we have reached a high watermark now with my election as the fifth Indian American. And I want to use this opportunity to build strong India-United States relationships. I want to work very hard on that and help commerce, help the people of both countries be able to work together with a lot of trust and a lot of cooperation.
Your book, your autobiography in Marathi, I think is the bestseller there.
Yes.
Come out with multiple editions. You speak quite fluent Marathi. Tell us, what is your message to the young Indian Americans in this country, the second generation or third generation?
Look, many of us, I immigrated to United States when I was 24-year-old. Mm-hmm. I came here primarily because to, escape poverty, escape financial hardship for me and my family. And many of us, many of the Indian American community have accomplished that. The Indian American community, we have some of the best doctors, we have some of the best business people, academicians. The Indian Americans have contributed tremendously to the growth and success of the United States, and that's great. We are a nation of immigrants. But we also have, as an immigrant, as a naturalized United States citizens, mm-hmm. we also have responsibility beyond economic success, beyond achieving our American dream. Mm-hmm. We also have an obligation to give back. When I came here with nothing, and this country of ours have achieved, what I have done coming as an immigrant on a student visa to be able to represent and be a member of United States Congress, to be able to start my own business, grow my business. Nowhere else I could have done this, So this is the greatness of America. And as we, experience this greatness of America, as we thrive economically, we also, the immigrant community, also has an obligation to give back. Give back in terms of skills, give back in terms of compassion, give back in a philanthropic way, give back in public service. Because to truly become a part of the American life, American culture, become part of the mainstream America, is that we need to not only economically succeed, but we need to be culturally, socially, politically, participate in the mainstream America and become a part of that. And that's what I would like to see more of that. It's happening to some extent. I would like to see more of that.
Wonderful. Do you have any?
Oh, yes. I would like to pick up on your wish mm-hmm. for people to participate more in civics and politics. And I am wondering if there is if you're going to push as a congressman for civics classes, for curriculum, so that people don't just ignore it. Oh, that's something, and they only think about Congress when some scandal happens or somebody makes some outrageous comment.
Absolutely, and I get a chance to go visit. Either because I wrote my book, my autobiography, and I get invited and I go speak about my experiences. But now, as a congressperson, as an elected representative, I have an opportunity to go talk with people. And this is the message that I often give. This is what I talk to young people to really look at public service as a career option. Beyond business, beyond medicine, beyond engineering, beyond science, look at public service as a viable career choice. And the parents should encourage their children to get politically active, because we can't sit back. We need to really go out there and fight. We need to go out there and express our voice and be a part of this political process to take this great country of ours to even greater heights. I believe that our best is yet to come.
I want to ask, that's such a great, almost to end on, but I really do need to ask you this, and that is that right now you've got a particularly partisan House majority determined to set their own agenda, perhaps threaten default with the U.S. government. And the question is, what's your approach to work with Republicans to figure out how to get this solved without the United States going into default?
Well, look, coming from a business world, I want to have win-win. I want to solve problems. I want to make deals. I want to solve problems. I want to take care, because just because we are in a minority, we can't stop helping people. People can't just wait for us, for us to get back in majority to do things. Because if you look at last 2 years with the Inflation Reduction Bill, the Space and Chips Acts, there is just so much was done that was historically amazing for U.S. economy, to make a fundamental difference in people's lives, in fundamental difference in infrastructure needs, in the ARPA funds that have made a huge difference in mental health, huge difference in creating opportunities for average Americans. And that work has to continue. Now, it is up to the Republicans, are they able to govern? Kevin McCarthy had to make a lot of deals with the extreme mega Republicans. We don't know the total extent of the deals that Kevin McCarthy has made and what he's beholden to. And is the Republican Party able to work across the aisle to make good decisions, good bills, to continue some of the progress that we have done? Or are they going to be so held hostage by the extreme mega Republicans who have a significant power over the speaker? It remains to be seen. We as Democrat, I'm willing to work across the aisle to solve some problems, make lives better for ordinary people, make healthcare accessible, make sure that we create the skills people need to be able to get good paying jobs. I want to make sure that we work on public safety so that family can raise their children in a safe environment. All of this remains. The people's work cannot be held hostage. And I am just hopeful that the Republicans will see through all this extreme mega mindset and work with Democrats on a common agenda to help people and improve people's lives.
It's a real pleasure to talk with you today, sir.
Yeah.
I feel that we could go on and talk about this forever, but I feel that we
should lead this up.
Exactly.
We have to come back again and again.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you so much, Congressman.